Yep, it's happening.
That is the official way that podcasters check, is you do the carnival song. What's good? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm the titular Newest Olympian. I'm a 32-year-old man who never read the Percy Jackson books as a kid. I read them as an adult, and then I said, yup, society was sleeping on that series. And now I'm seeing, has society also been sleeping on the Heroes of Olympus series? And to answer that question, I'm joined by various guests along on this quest, because I'm never on this quest alone. In this episode, I am joined by someone who is understandably a fan favorite on this podcast, and I would say a fan favorite in my life. It's Sequoia Simone, who you might know from But Make It Scary and Fanatical Fics. Sequoia, how's it going?
It's going so well. I am so happy to be here. I love being on this show. One of the lights of my podcasting life is to be on this show.
It's a good time. I always look forward to it as well, and I'm excited that I just happened to kind of pick these chapters, you know, usually just like on a whim, and I've gifted you quite the banger, it seems.
You know what? I always feel so blessed. This happens every time. You're like, oh, it's just these chapters. And I'm like, oh, it's just these chapters.
Yeah, it's just going to be episode 100. And it will also be when Luke, or Annabeth tells Luke, you're like a brother to me.
Yeah.
And
Legendary.
We'll get to do E2 Ethan. Oh, it's just going to be the first episode of the TV show.
I have been very blessed, but I had been under the impression that you somehow picked these on purpose because you remembered who I picked as my godly parent.
Right. Not on purpose, but I think the stars just aligned.
They aligned so well.
I think if anyone needs proof of the divine, just look at the scheduling of the Newest Olympian, because people are like, wow. If anyone does think, wow, Mike is so smart with the scheduling, it is purely just like, who haven't I had on the show in a while? Or who haven't I had on the show at all? Oh, when am I free? Okay, yeah, let's do these chapters. Like, there's almost never any calculation in it. So I'm glad this all worked out. Now, we are going to be discussing chapters 9 and 10 of The Lost Hero, which are both called Piper. Kind of weird. But before we get into it, I think I've asked you most of the guest questions.
Right.
Have I asked you the potentially deeply personal, what's your fatal flaw one yet?
You haven't.
Okay. Do you want to answer that one? You can respectfully pass, but I think that's next on the list.
Yeah. I mean, I actually was thinking about this recently because a friend asked me, like, what is the trait that you have that kind of cuts both ways?
Ooh.
That is like sometimes good and sometimes bad. And yeah, and I've been thinking about it for weeks since that friend asked me the question. And I think that it is also kind of my fatal flaw, which is that, like, I really like it when people like me.
Yeah, look.
You know, like, I want to be liked. And that can sometimes lead to, like, me agreeing with things that I don't agree with, or, you know, like, saying things that I wouldn't usually say, or acting in a way that I wouldn't usually act that's, like, outside of character for me. And I have to, like, be very cognizant of that and, like, check myself and be like, are you saying or doing that because you want this particular group of people to like you? Or is that a thing that you actually are, that you think or like?
Yeah, I 1,000% get it, especially as someone who has been online for years and years. I 1,000% get it. And yeah, it's the weird thing of, I do want people to like me, but I don't want to act in a way where I'm trying to get people to like me, because that is the fast track to people not liking you, because it's so fake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just like, I spent so many years, you know, as a theater kid, not that I'm not a theater kid anymore. Like, that is where my soul is. In my soul, I'm a theater kid. But, you know, like, you just are like on, right? And there's sometimes when you're like, maybe don't be so on, and people will like you more just because you're like being chill and cool and normal.
Yep. I get I 1000% get it. Well, thank you for sharing it. And now we can get into chapter 9, which is just called Piper. But as you might not know, because I don't think any episode of the newest Olympian that has established we're doing this has come out at the time of recording. We're recording this on April 28th. What we're doing now, since there aren't chapter titles, is when we get to the end of the chapter, we come up with what the chapter title would have been if it was a Percy Jackson book. So you can start marinating on what cool, funky, quirky chapter title would I give this chapter, which is called Piper. Now, this does open with another banger, which is becoming trademark of Heroes of Olympus. Chapter 9 opens with, quote, Piper had dreamed about her last day with her dad. And then I was like, oh, yeah, let's go. But then I immediately wrote, oh, no, this is going to be sad.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're ready. You're like, yes, I want this story. And also, am I going to cry? Who knows?
So we are in this dream and we are on a beach near Big Sur, which is a big, as the name would suggest, sort of beach national parky type deal in California. I actually don't know what it exactly qualifies as. I don't know if it's a state park or I don't think it's a national park. Or is it a reserve?
I don't think it's a national park.
Let's see. What is Big Sur? And then, oh, okay. Thanks, Google. It's a village. All right.
Okay.
Is an unincorporated community in the Big Sur region in Monterey County, California, United States. Okay, but okay, fine, whatever. It's a big thing in California. There's like parks and stuff. There's a cool bridge that everyone takes a photo of. I've been there once. Have you ever been there?
I have never been there. No, but I love a cool bridge. So
yeah. I went there one time when I lived in California and I knew I was going to be moving away and I just wanted to do a bunch of checkmark, like I should do California things before I don't live in California anymore. And me and my buddy Sal went and I'm pretty sure we just put into Google Maps Big Sur and then went where the dot said. And I don't know if we went to like the right part. We ended up driving on a dirt road for arguably way too long in my 2001 Nissan Maxima, which was not set for off-road conditions.
Right. Like famously Big Sur is big. And so
yeah. We had a fun time though. Went on some hikes, saw some pretty stuff. But anyway, they're on a beach in Big Sur and they are taking a break from surfing. More like Big Surf, am I right?
Jeez.
Thanks everyone for listening. So things were apparently going very well, and they were going so well that Piper knew something was going to go wrong, like paparazzi or a shark attack. And I'm remembering at this point, oh yeah, her dad is famous, but we don't know exactly how yet.
Exactly. Yeah. Paparazzi, just like shark. Shark and paparazzi, same thing, basically.
Very similar. Yeah. The way to thwart both of them is punching them in the nose. Piper's dad congratulates her on her surfing, and narrator Piper notes his perfect looks that drive fans wild. Piper thinks her dad is just being nice because she's still wiping out a ton, but she still feels pride. And as someone who surfs, when you're first learning, it's hard. Even if you know what you're doing, you will fall a lot. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah. It looks incredibly difficult. I have never tried it before because I don't like water. But it looks super hard.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm trying to compare it to something else. It's kind of similar to skiing where it's like you can know exactly what you're supposed to do and still make mistakes. And you can tell your body like, no, you're supposed to do this. And then your body's like, nah, man, like I'm riding on a long rectangle on a actively crashing wave. I'm not going to do this. So it's one of those things where like you just got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. So don't get discouraged, Piper. Get back up on that board.
It's one of those things where you're like, who came up with this? Who was like, what if?
I would love, gosh, there's all questions about what lives in the afterlife, but I would love if there was a movie theater where I could just watch like, who's the first person that discovered you could eat blueberries? Like I just want to see the first everything. Like who's the first person that was like, oh, this spicy pepper that hurts my mouth is actually really good if I heat it up in food? Like I want to know the first everything. I want to see who was the first person that surfed. Like,
was it an accident?
Or was it like fight or flight? Was it like, oh my God, Brad was getting chased by a shark and then he found driftwood and he just stood on it. Like,
just like Brad was being chased by the paparazzi in the water.
Oh gosh, yeah, and then even more people wanted to write cave paintings of him.
Exactly.
Classic Brad.
Caveman paparazzi, we love.
The worst. Those stone cameras just everywhere. Anyway, so her dad, of course, is just a natural at surfing, despite him being from Oklahoma, notably arid.
Notably.
And Piper only sticks with the surfing to spend time with her dad. And this is like a classic thing.
Yeah.
But also like, of all the things to be like, oh man, I guess I got to go surfing with my dad at Big Sur. Like, there's way worse. I only do this because my so-and-so likes this sort of activity.
Gotta spend the afternoon on a private beach. I guess so.
Oh, gee whiz. One of the most nationally acclaimed villages in the United States.
Great village. Great village.
Such a good village. So he pulls out sandwiches. His is a turkey pesto crab cake wasabi sandwich. And I was like, okay.
Whoa. Yeah.
Need to make this immediately. Need to have a Percy Jackson party. Like blue food, sure. Cute, fun. I will eat blue Takis until my teeth fall out. Yep. But give me this.
This is gourmet.
This is fancy. And then Piper, to match the gourmet, has a peanut butter and jelly. And like, I love a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. As I've said on the podcast, I eat one every single day because I am still 8 years old. But you got to upgrade Piper. And then they explain like what's going on in a little bit. But like, if he's bringing turkey pesto crab cake wasabi to the table, maybe get a little fancier than just a PBJ.
Yeah. I mean, there could be just like a fancy jam that is happening.
Right. Like, I would hope that at least it's like Bonne Mamman all four fruit spread.
Wow. I've never heard of this thing that you just said.
Okay. I'm not sponsored by them, but Bonne Mamman makes the best preserves. They're the ones that's like, it's like the French company that's in those glass jars that like has like it's like a bunch of like jaggedy lines. So it's like almost like a 20-sided circle thing or whatever. But it's really good and normally very expensive unless it's on sale, or B, you go to Costco wholesale, because you can get one that's like triple the size for like not that much. And then the one that comes in the big Costco one, which is what we get, is 4 fruit. So it is, I want to say, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and red currant, or maybe one of those is cherry instead. Gotta Google this because I can't get this wrong, because if they're going to sponsor the show, I got to get it right. Bonne Mamman 4 fruit preserves. And that's a key.
Right.
Folks, get preserves. It's better than jam. It's better than jelly because A, it's healthier, and B, it tastes better. Let's see. Strawberries, raspberries, cherries, and red currants. Okay, so no blueberries. They have like one that has blueberries in there. It's a different one. But yeah, strawberries, raspberries, cherries, and red currants is really good. I highly recommend. And then the cool thing is, since it comes in like a big, taller version at Costco, and it's glass with like a good lid, you just get free Tupperware after.
Wow.
Like, we have at least 8 of them in our kitchen, and they are great for food storage because they're huge.
This is the best advertisement I've ever heard.
I don't know if Bonne Mamman is one of the brands that I've emailed. Like, every now and then I'll email brands that I use stuff from, and I'm like, hey, you want to sponsor the show? People ask me about my socks all the time, and then they don't reply. So I won't say the sock name on the pod. But like, Bonne Mamman, sponsor the pod, please. I eat so much of your full fruit spread, as noted by me eating a PB&J every single day. Anyway, back to Percy Jackson.
Gourmet.
Piper clarifies that she's vegetarian, which I was like, okay, you can still have a fancy vegetable sandwich.
Sure.
But then she further explains that simple food is what she prefers over super duper fancy food because these sandwiches were prepared by their private chef. And she intentionally does stuff like this and wearing non-fancy clothes and cutting her own hair unevenly so that she doesn't come off as the fancy schmancy rich kid, which I can understand. Classic sort of teenage thing, at least what the Disney Channel would tell me.
Exactly. I mean, it's classically you like want to rebel against your parents and what they think is cool or what they want for you or whatever. And it sounds like her dad is like, I could buy you some cool clothes or whatever. And she's like, no, I don't need cool clothes. I have this t-shirt that I'm going to wear every single day or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense. But also like learning this about Piper, then you're like, man, it sucks that this kid just like wants to be a regular kid with a regular life, and she's got a famous dad and then also a famous mom.
Slightly different levels
Slightly
of fame,
different, yeah.
but yeah,
just like not normal on any plane.
No, none whatsoever. Now, one thing I do have to comment about Private Chef is that Kelly and I are not stupid rich, but we have said that if we ever do become stupid rich, I think our first stupid rich sort of usage of money would be Private Chef.
For
because
sure.
I do love to eat a home-cooked meal. I love to
Yes.
cook. I love to be healthy. But if someone came in and was like, hello, in exchange for dollars, you wouldn't have to do any of this, but you could still have food that's as good, if not better, and as healthy. I would be like, yes, please. I would save so much time. Like, I could do so many other things.
Exactly. I feel the same way, except that I hate cooking. So it would be, there's extra incentive there for me.
Yeah. So number 1 is private chef. Number 2 is have a house big enough where I can have an indoor basketball court. But also increasingly different levels of stupid rich. I'd have to be exploit people rich, I think, to have that much money.
The basketball court,
or I would just like live in a state where they like pay you to live there. One of those states. And I won't name any to not offend listeners from there.
Yeah.
But you know which state you are.
You kind of have to live in the middle of nowhere, but you know.
Yeah. Anyway, Percy Jackson. So then narrator Piper mentions she has a record of getting kicked out of private schools. And I was like, sounds familiar.
Oh, you don't say.
You don't say. You might. Now I'm just imagining a Larry the Cable Guy thing of like, you might be a demigod if.
Yeah. Or the TikTok thing where they're like, we're demigods. We get kicked out of school.
Gosh. Some TikTok formats I just don't love.
I know.
But that format I do love. There was one that was like, we're the United States government. Of course we won't pay for schools. Like that one I was like, all right, I'm on board. Like
I love it. Love it when it gets to the parody. Yeah.
We're the United States government. We won't do anything to fund the public good unless it's the police. Like,
Exactly.
Anyway, as narrator Piper, she reveals that the whole BMW thing was her biggest heist yet, and she pulls all of these stunts to try to get her dad's attention. But now she regrets this particular BMW one because he doesn't know, and he surprised her with this trip, so she didn't need to do a whole big thing to make something like this happen. And she's like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't have stolen that car.
Yeah.
He senses that something is wrong. She begins to tell him what's up, but then he asks if they can play any 3 questions, which narrator Piper describes as a game that I think is a way for him to not bond with his daughter, where nothing is off limits, and Piper recognizes it as just a way for him to stay involved and informed about her life with minimal time commitment, which sounds atrocious.
Yeah, I don't love it. I really don't love it. And it also feels like he cut her off in order to start this thing, which is like just pure avoidance of, he's like, instead of talking, let's talk.
Right.
Like it just doesn't, it's no good.
Instead of getting right to the point, what if we did a roundabout thing where we semi-change the subject, but not really?
And also you ask me questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
It's very strange. I don't understand it. And whenever I get to parenting, I feel like stereotypically teenage children, it seems to be the most like, stay out of my life, dad. So if my teenage child was like, hello, I'd like to open up to you. Oh my God, I would flip the chair around like a vice principal and be like, I'm going to drop everything and talk to you for 12 hours about whatever's going on. Like, I don't want to be a pushy, overbearing parent. So if my child was like, hello, I'd like to open up to you about something deeply personal. Like, actually, can we keep this to small talk?
Yeah. It's really bizarre.
I think the purpose of Rick putting this in is to show us that Piper's dad is not great. And I think mission accomplished.
Yeah.
So question 1 is basically about mom. What's up with mom? And Piper's dad retells she disappeared right after you were born story. Piper asks, do you think she is still alive? That is the actual question. And he gives this non-answer about Grandpa Tom used to say that if you walked far enough into the sunset, you'd reach ghost country where you can talk to the dead. Piper likens it to the Greek land of the dead, which feels very convenient for us folks who have read 5 and 1/10 Greek books so far.
Yeah.
Or I guess 1/5, because there's anyway. Piper reveals that she made this reference because her dad had a role, which gives more of a hint towards him being an actor, which was my initial guess. Role has an ancient Greek king and read all the stories to Piper. He says that there are a lot of similarities between Greek and Cherokee lore, but says that he doesn't believe that these stories of gods are real because he'd always be looking for someone to blame. And I kind of respect that take. I with not trying to like step on any sort of belief or religious toes of any way, I do understand like this line of reasoning, because at least when it comes to what I could at least understand how people did follow the Greek religions, where it's like, oh, so-and-so was the god of this, so-and-so was the god of that. Like, it does seem a little bit like, oh, this happened because this person or this deity is mad at me. So I can at least like see his reasoning.
Yeah. And he seems to have been a person who has like encountered a lot of trials and, you know, very sad things have happened to him. And especially in this like context of talking about mom, like, as we know, the Greek gods are like not super good at navigating the relationships with their mortal co-parents.
Not the strong suit.
Not their strong suit.
Narrator Piper thinks he's referring to Grandpa Tom dying before Dad had big money, Mom leaving him with a newborn and no goodbye note, rude, and him being successful but not happy. He says that he thinks that Mom might be alive, but she's as good as in the ghost country because she's not coming back. And then a car door opens behind them, and it's Jane, the assistant we all hate, and she's angrily walking with her PDA. Oh, not her public display of affection. Her personal device? Digital assistant? Personal digital assistant? What does PDA stand for? Technology. I don't want to get Google images of people making out. Personal digital assistant. We got there. Let's go. For anyone that is not 30 or older, PDAs were a thing that was like BlackBerry era of technology. Yeah. And it was a Palm Pilot is at least the brand that I remember. My dad had a couple iterations of that, and it was like had a touch screen, but you had to use a little stylus thing. And then it had like full keyboard beneath it. It was like the first thing where it was like, wait, a phone can connect to the internet and you could just like go on a website? It was wild.
Yeah. And it was very like business coded, where you're like, this is where you put your schedule and your contacts. And if you have one, then clearly you are in the business of business.
Yeah. I remember constantly asking my dad what games it had, because at this point I had like a singular wireless, like, you know, big chunky button Nokia style phone.
Oh, yeah. And you were playing Snake and just Snake over and over again. Yeah.
I had Snake for sure. And I was wondering, all right, this thing can do way more. What kind of games does it have? And I don't think it had games. Either that or my dad was great at convincing me it didn't have games. And maybe it did. I remember my dad did use it for work, but he also used it for our travel baseball team, because you could use it to show baseball bookkeeping, like where did the ball go, who got a hit, where did it go, all that kind of stuff. Yes, exactly. And you could do it. And then like it kept like in-depth baseball stats and stuff. So I like, so I like knew my baseball stats and stuff at a certain point in time, which was cool. And it was pretty good.
Wow.
So
Palm Pilots are not just for business; they're also for baseball,
which is business.
We learned today, which is serious business.
Business. Piper notices that Jane has a triumphant look, though, which is bad, which makes Piper think, uh-oh, she's probably heard from the police. So Piper prays to any god of any kind to knock Jane out, but just for the day, which is great. Yeah. Love that. Piper then tries to tell her dad what happened, but he tells her to stop so that they can see what Jane wants. So he goes over, talks to Jane, and then Piper sees angry points being thrown in her direction by Jane. Not ideal. So then Dad walks back, looking like Piper has betrayed his trust, and he says that he would have bought her any car she wanted once she turned 16. And Piper corrects that Jane would buy it, which then leads her into her actual feelings. Screw your questions. I just want to go to regular school where you bring me to parent-teacher conferences, or at least homeschool me. And I appreciate this. I also want to do a quick correction, because there was something that I said in a TV episode of this when the superintendent is like, oh yeah, Sally, in the young Percy flashback, it's like, oh yeah, Sally, you should just homeschool him. I said, oh, like that's a thing. And I didn't mean like homeschooling is a thing. I mean like just telling someone who's not prepared to be a teacher, oh, you should just drop everything you're doing in teaching. Exactly. That's what I meant. And I think most people got it, but I got a couple like Spotify reviews or like replies where people are like, hey, this comment sucks. And you can't reply to Spotify comments, which angers me so much. It's so frustrating, especially when people say things that are wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, like, people who, like, have to work and, like, you know, you can't just demand that a person homeschools their kid.
100%.
Because it's not possible for everyone to do.
That's what I meant. Not that, like, homeschooling isn't legit or that people can't do it. But just like Sally, who is a single mom, effectively full-time job, is just like, oh, yeah, by the way, also teach, please. But anyway, I think Piper's feelings here are valid. I like that she expressed them to her dad. And I like that she just wants to be normal, whether it is at a school or a homeschool situation. Like, she even recognizes her dad's situation, which I think is nice.
Right.
She even realizes, okay, yeah, maybe you couldn't just bring me to school and stuff, but at least there's something else that is better than this private school I keep getting kicked out and I never see you current plan that we're doing that I hate.
Exactly. It's not about that. I know you could buy me a car.
Mm-hmm.
Your sandwich is probably like a $500 sandwich.
You could exchange this sandwich for a down payment on a Hyundai Elantra, which got the J.D. Power Associates Best Crash Test Safety Rating. I have no idea what J.D. Power Associates actually does, but I love name dropping them at any instance. If there was a way, can I write them? Can my podcast be rated by J.D. Power and Associates? I would actually maybe pay for that, because there's like certain things like those, like the Webbies and stuff. They're like, oh, do your podcast in the Webbies. I'm like, and I got to pay $500 for like the chance of being nominated. Absolutely not. I could spend that $500 on anything else or donate it to charity. But if J.D. Power and Associates was like, hey, if you give us a couple $100, we'll give your podcast a great crash test safety rating, I'll be like, oh, baby. Oh, no. Oh, no.
That would be incredible.
And then I'd get the little thing, like they always show it in the car commercials, like the little trophy, and I would build a thing behind my microphone here.
Oh, yeah.
And I would start making video episodes for every single episode of this podcast so that people could always see.
Have to.
Yeah. I would maybe just put it in front of the camera and then my face would be behind it, so you can like mostly see. Anyway, Percy Jackson. So her dad says, "Don't make this about me." Of course, this is about you. What are you talking about?
It is naturally about you.
Talking about. He says he does the best he can, and that they've had this conversation. And Piper thinks, "No, you've cut this conversation off for years."
Every time I try to have this conversation, you're like, "What about 3 questions?"
Yeah. I really respect Piper saying "you've cut this conversation off," because I've certainly had people in different walks of my life, when you have like an angry conversation, or at least just a heated one, rather than that person confront it, they will just say like, this conversation is over, and then leave. And it's like, that's not having the conversation.
That doesn't actually resolve anything.
No. We are on the cusp of actually discussing what needs to be discussed. And rather than you see my side of it, you've left. That's not fair.
No.
That's not fair.
No.
So her dad says that Jane brokered a deal with the police. Should that be? Should have. I don't know. Look, I don't know how things work. I've made my feelings on the police very clear on this podcast and my previous podcasts, and you can see the 1-star reviews that respond to that. I don't feel like, whether this is a real thing or not, I would just say that maybe the assistant of some famous movie actor should not be able to broker deals with the police.
Yeah. This is the definition of like privilege, of being able to be like, actually, we'll just take care of this on the side. Because like, one of the things that we learn in the first chapter is that the other kids at Wilderness School don't know who Piper is, which means that she has stayed out of media attention somehow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And knowing that she's gotten kicked out of all these schools and is like wild. Constantly stealing stuff.
Oh my God.
They have to be paying off people like left and right.
Wow, that's a really
for no
good
one
point.
to know who Piper is.
Wow, that is such a good point. Yeah, because, I mean, people know so many famous people's kids that, like, don't do anything wrong. They just are.
Exactly. They exist.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Wild. Well, what's even wilder is this deal that she's brokered. Here's another reason of why she shouldn't be doing this. Because the deal makes no sense. The car dealership won't press charges, but Piper has to go to the Wilderness School. And I would just hope that this is some sort of like powered by the gods shenanigans, because without that, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
If anything, it just has to involve corruption with the Wilderness School and the police. Like there has to be
100%.
some sort of funding, because why would the police or the dealership
Yeah.
be incentivized to not press charges or not put Piper away or do whatever. So I think like the wilderness school has to be paying someone, right? Like the wilderness school is like, oh, no, don't press charges. We'll give you money. So like, are they charging a bunch of tuition maybe? Like, is that the whole scheme?
Yeah,
like the wilderness school gets a bunch of tuition from these people. They're like, oh, instead of pressing charges and that's going to be a bunch of money in legal fees and stuff, you can pay us a bunch of money and we'll keep your kids. Like, I guess that's it. There's some sort of corruption going on.
Or it's like the government funded something, like for profit prisons style, right?
See? No matter what it is,
there's something going on.
Yes. It's stinky all the way through.
And also, the assistant, Jane, she has like really big evil stepmom energy.
Oh, she is Smelly Gabe in this book.
Yeah.
She's just different Smelly Gabe in a pencil skirt, I assume.
Exactly. Walking in her heels on the sand.
Oh, and with the really, even though it's on sand, it's making the loud click clack noises. Like it's still all the way. Yeah.
There's somebody following her with coconuts, like
Monty Python. Yes. Correct. So, Piper's dad, who I just want to be named so I can stop saying Piper's dad. I guess I could say Mr. McLean, but that's too many syllables, or maybe it's the same. Piper's dad, Mr. McLean. Nope, too many. Haha, Piper's dad is shorter. Good, efficiency. Good thing I spent 12 seconds talking about this. Piper's dad slips up and says that the school is for problems, but then he tries to correct for kids who struggle. But Piper calls him out for only thinking of her as a problem, which is valid. It does seem like to him, she is a thing he just kind of has to sort out and not really care for. CNC also, 3 questions instead of real conversations. But on the flip side, I can kind of see why her dad might view her as a problem, since Piper's main method of communication is literally causing problems to get his attention. Like, I don't think he is right, but I can see where he's coming from.
Yeah. You just have to understand. He has to understand that the root of the stealing stuff problem is actually him. So he's the problem. It's him.
Yes. It's me. Hi.
Yeah, exactly.
So Piper's dad says that she let him down and he doesn't know what else to do. She says, do anything as long as you do it yourself, which I like.
Got him.
And then her dad says to see Jane, who has a cold smile and a plane ticket. And this is where I wrote in my notes, hello, new smelly Gabe. And then Piper's dream changes. And what I do appreciate is that, and again, this is a book, but I do like that this dream was just a straight replay of something that happened. I am not necessarily the most vivid dreamer. I usually don't remember my dreams quite well, which means I'm a deep sleeper, which I appreciate. But I rarely have dreams which are, here's an exact situation that happened to me recently.
Yeah. That seems to be a thing for demigods where like, I have dreams, but they're definitely not things that happened to me. I have a vivid, my dream last night was just me bombing on a stand-up set for like 2 hours.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I wish I remembered my dreams less, honestly.
The key thing for me is the only dreams I do remember are either the terrifying ones or the incredibly awkward ones. Like there's nothing of like, oh yeah, remember that cool dream where you were good at basketball? No, never remember that one, ever. I remember the ones where I was really bad at basketball, where I finally made the Knicks and then I missed a million shots. Yeah, I remember that one all the time.
Yeah.
Ugh, gross, disgusting. Anyway. I do appreciate the very helpful dream. I think that's good. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Keep having that. Now we have a new dream, and it's the other type of demigod dream, which is not, here's an exact situation that happened to me, but instead, here's the villain talking to me, which, look, it's a book, and you got to do it, and I appreciate it, so let's go. Yeah. And even before this happened, I wrote, this has got to be one about the mistress, right? Like, this has to be what's happening. So the new dream has her atop a mountain at night in front of a hot bonfire. And I was like, okay, yeah, bonfire, the mistress seems kind of like her deal. And then a voice says, this is your second warning. And behind the fire, a large face emerges. Piper knows it's connected to a giant body, but it's so dark that she can't really see it. The face has dreadlocks with bones tied inside of them, which is certainly a choice and very terrifying and scary.
Yes.
The giant says that Piper will go on the quest, do their bidding, and she may walk alive. And I was like, may is not good enough.
May?
I'm going to need the express written consent that says, hello, I'm not going to kill you, contractually obligated.
Exactly. We need this in writing immediately.
It needs to be notarized. I need proof. And the giant continues, if not, and then nods to her dad, who is hanging unconscious by the fire. Piper tries to scream, but it doesn't work. Classic nightmare rules.
Oh,
the giant,
the
worst. The giant then gives firm word, saying that if she serves him, and his name is Enceladus, I got to ask Dr. Moy about this, they both will live. And I'm also just going to make a bold prediction here. If Enceladus sticks around long enough for Grover to come back, he is 100% making an enchiladas joke. It is happening. If they say to Grover, oh, that's Enceladus, he's going to go, who said something about enchiladas? It's going to happen, but I don't know if they will ever cross paths.
Yeah.
Trapdoor stays intact. Wonderful. Now, he threatens to eat her if she doesn't, so feels like maybe you want to do what he says. And then he laughs, and a crevice opens under Piper. She falls in and wakes up, and then the narrator says, quote, she woke feeling like she'd been trampled on by an Irish dancing troupe, which I feel like Uncle Rick's dated references feel more dated in this one. Like, PDAs don't exist anymore. People don't make river dance jokes anymore. I'm sure, like, in other parts of the world, I'm speaking in America, it was certainly a thing where, like,
there was
late 90s, early 2000s, it was like every joke was Riverdance and Siegfried and Roy.
Because that was when you would, like, stay up late and TV would be on, and then the infomercials for the Riverdance tapes would come on. And that's why we talked about Riverdance so much.
Yeah, and you know what?
And that doesn't exist anymore.
I miss the days when infomercial scams were things like that, and like knives cutting phone books, you know, when you have to do that all the time.
Hulk Hogan's blender.
Sure. That is so much better than all of these gambling and Bitcoin commercials. Like, I would much rather see a silly one-use kitchen gadget that I don't need with someone struggling in black and white to do a very specific and easy task. And then they get the thing where it's like, this sucks the yolks out of eggs.
Exactly. Exactly.
I would much rather have that than 12,000 sports betting companies. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Gosh, bring back better scams. Anyway, Piper reaches down and grabs the hilt of Catoptris, her mirror sword thing, and this confirms that Camp Half-Blood wasn't a dream. A voice asks how she's feeling. She looks around and she sees Rachel Elizabeth Dare and a, quote, don't let the sickness get your goat, satyr medical poster. Very fun. Piper can't believe her eyes at what she sees next, a surfer guy. And I wrote, Luke? I thought you were dead.
Yeah.
No, it is a surfer guy with hundreds of eyes over his body. So I wrote, Argus, yay! Yeah. Rachel Elizabeth Dare informs her by saying that he's head of security and keeps an eye on things, so to speak. Nice, Rachel Elizabeth Dare. Nice. She tells Piper that she's in the big house and was brought here after collapsing. Chiron healed her with nectar. Rachel Elizabeth Dare asks if she remembers her vision. Piper thinks at first she means the dream, but then realizes, oh no, she means Hera.
Right.
Piper says, yeah, that Hera is trapped. There was something about the earth swallowing us. There's a fiery one after us, and the solstice is important. Argus is upset specifically because Hera made him, which I either didn't realize or didn't remember from Dr. Moya telling me things about Argus in a previous mythology episode.
I didn't remember that either.
And Rachel Elizabeth Dare says they are trying to keep him from crying to prevent another flood. And the key word here is another. And I would love to know the unwritten story of that time Argus cried so much that there was a flood. And I would love if it was because they watched The Notebook. I'm going to write this in the top of my notes because I have an idea for a future live show, kind of like similar. Oh, wait, I think we're going to do this at LeakyCon, I think. I just wrote I have this thing in my notes, live show idea, crafting the stories such as Pizza Guy Lost in Book 5 and Nico's accidental shadow traveling to China. Like the stories that aren't actually told. So I'm also going to say, the time Argus cried a flood. Was it a river? Justin Timberlake? Is that how we got the creek? Is that a leftover?
Yeah. Oh.
We will have to remember this.
You would think they would have learned their lesson and they would sort of like build like, oh, Argus is about to start crying. So you get him on this little part of the beach where it like slopes down towards the water so that you can get just sort of like a waterfall experience.
Or send him to the Great Salt Lake in Utah because it needs more water.
It needs more water. It needs more water.
It's going to be so smelly and then like kill people smelly. Yeah, not just smelly, but deathy. Ugh, I hate when that happens. I hate when things are stinky and they also kill me.
Yeah, that's why I don't live there anymore.
Argus, we got to keep him from crying. Piper asks if they know what happened to Hera. She says no, and also says that Jason and Annabeth were here for her, but they left to try and restore Jason's memories. And she, Piper, is very happy that Jason was here for her and wishes that she was awake for that, but also wonders if him getting his memory back would be good, just like genuinely curious. Is this a good thing or a bad thing for my Jason and me dating agenda? But then she thinks, nah, it doesn't matter, because if I save my dad, everyone's going to hate me anyway, Jason included, so who cares?
Every time she makes a friend or has any thoughts about making any friends or romantic connections, she's just got to remember.
Doesn't matter.
Oops.
Everyone's going to hate me anyway. Piper looks at the ceremonial blade and thinks that it's fitting, a fake, just like Piper. And I just got to say, whatever happens with Piper, this is a great plot device. This is fantastic to have one of our three heroes be someone that we inherently cannot trust. It's great.
Yes.
It is so captivating.
It's so good.
So fun. Rachel Elizabeth passes along that Jason also had a vision of Hera, leading her to believe that they are meant to work together on this quest. Rachel Elizabeth smiles like that is a good thing. Piper, not so much on that line of thinking, because now she's like, oh, great. Not only am I going to tank this quest, but I'm going to make the guy I like really sad along the way. She then begins to cry. Rachel Elizabeth tries to encourage her. Piper asks, how can you relate to this? And Rachel Elizabeth says that she gets hunches sometimes. And then she busts out a hunch that Piper will be claimed at the campfire tonight. And hopefully that clarity will help. Piper thinks of her dad saying there's no way to get her mom back. But now she might be claimed. So maybe there is a way to get her mom back. She then tells Rachel Elizabeth that she hopes it's Athena. Rachel Elizabeth thinks that Annabeth is hoping the same. Ooh, friends. Piper calls out Rachel Elizabeth for having all these hunches while knowing nothing about her. And Rachel Elizabeth says, don't be so sure. And Piper says, okay, yeah, you're saying that just to sound like a spooky oracle. And Rachel Elizabeth says, don't give away my secrets. Rachel Elizabeth has incredible comedic timing.
She's great.
She's
great.
Really funny in this book.
Yeah.
I very much enjoy it.
Yeah. I'm glad we still have her.
Yes.
Like, I loved her in the first series, and I'm glad she's still around.
Yeah, and she is thriving. So much more fun of an oracle than Creepy Mummy.
Oh, yes.
So much more fun.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
As the kids would say, she has so much more riz.
No.
Which is short for charisma for everyone older than 30. I didn't know that for months. Rachel Elizabeth assures her that everything will work out, just not the way she plans. And that does feel very Oracle. Like, that is like the trademark of Oracle. Like, it's all going to work out. These words are going to be different and stuff.
Right.
And it kind of feels like a throwaway, but it's also going to be 100% accurate. Like, I think whatever Piper decides to do, like, we're going to get a happy ending in the way because it is a kid's book, but we'll see how it happens. Then a conch horn blows. Piper guesses dinner. Rachel Elizabeth says, nah, you slept through that. It's time for campfire. And that's the end of chapter 9. The fun title that I gave was A Giant Gives Me Their Word, because that felt like perfectly vague enough of like when you go into the chapter, you might be like, oh, cool, giant friend. Tyson's back, maybe, question mark, but oh no, scary giant. Do you have a fun chapter 9 title?
I don't get to eat my peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
That's good. That's really good. That's really good. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Way better than mine. Now, before we get into chapter 10, we're going to take a break for our mid-roll break, which is currently called The Lost Euro. I didn't come up with it. And then we will be back to discuss chapter 10. Hello and welcome to the Lost Euro Shubio edition, here with some updates about the podcast. First off, thanks everyone for listening and enjoying. I hope you are enjoying. It seems like people are enjoying. These have been really fun, doing the Heroes of Olympus stuff, getting into it, and even me tweeting about some of the stuff I'm reading, because I am usually ahead by a couple of weeks of the podcast. So I've gotten to some really spicy parts of the book in current present time. So follow the new Olympian on social media if you want to see those kinds of things. But thank you to everyone who has also said nice nice things again about me and Kelly having our little baby girl. Everyone's been so nice. That's been very, very cool. And a couple of people have asked if we have a P.O. box for sending stuff. That is overly kind. You do not have to do this at all. But if you are interested, we do have one. You can go to the contact page on thenewsolympia.com and we've got a P.O. box where you can send stuff. As far as updates with the show, we've got our upcoming live shows. You can get tickets at thenewsolympia.com/live. Also, I had mentioned social media earlier. I have started a new Instagram Reels series where anytime I'm in Manhattan and I see a statue, I film a little thing and I rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how useful that statue would be in the battle that was in the last Olympian. So that's a fun one. I'm going to be posting stuff more there. Just follow @NewsOlympian on Instagram if you want to check that out. But also, if you are a member of the TNO Patreon, you will know this. But if not, I've been doing early episodes quite early recently. This is the third in a row that I've been able to get up on a Friday. So if you join any of the TNO tiers at thenewsolympia.com/Patreon, you get access to ad-free early episodes. And they've been 3 days early for 3 weeks in a row. Pretty cool. And then you get a whole bunch of other cool perks by joining the Patreon. You get bonus episodes, you get director's commentary, you get access to the Discord, you get monthly Q&A live streams. So that's been fun. I've been uploading audio extras recently, things that get cut either from the episode because they're bloopers or things like sound check from some of the live shows. So I've been putting those up. We just did one of our monthly Q&As. So lots of good stuff happening over at thenewsolympia.com/Patreon. And let me thank the folks who have joined most recently over at thenewsolympia.com/Patreon. So shout out to our newest God tier patrons, Trish, Cersei's Trans Clinic, and Nina May. And shout out to our newest demigod tier patrons, Connor Elliott, James Moskell, Chris Wilson, Mary Barker, and Gracia Centrone. Thank you all so much for your support. May Nemesis bless you that if you are ever trying to beat something in a video game or something like that, and you're like, oh God, come on, one more try, you get it on that one more try. That feels like revenge to me. Now, if you're all caught up on the newest Olympian and you are looking for some new content to consume, you are in luck because I make a whole bunch of podcasts and I think they are very good and I think you would enjoy them. One that I think you would enjoy is a little game show that I run called Meddling Adults. Meddling Adults is a podcast for charity where I host and guests compete to solve children's mysteries for good causes. The guests pick what cause they are playing for. Whoever wins by solving the most correct mysteries from children's classics like Scooby-Doo and Encyclopedia Brown, whoever gets the most right, they earn money for a charity of their choosing. It's very fun. You get to learn about cool organizations and meet a bunch of cool folks. I've had a lot of really fantastic guests on the show, and you can play along at home. It is a good time, and you can listen to Meddling Adults wherever you get your podcasts by searching for Meddling Adults or by going to meddlingadults.com. I am currently in between seasons, but season 5 is in production. I'm working on another podcast side project at the moment, but once that's wrapped up, I'm going to get back into season 5 production for Meddling Adults, and I'm very, very excited about that. So that's Meddling Adults. You should check it out. It's a very good podcast. Now, unless you are listening on Patreon, where you get access to ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors who make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me. Others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by me are inserted locally. So if you live in St. Lucia, don't be surprised if you hear an ad still in English because that's their official language, but maybe it is more based around things in the Caribbean. But once the ads are complete, we'll get back to this episode of The Newest Olympian. So we are back, chapter 10, also called Piper, until we rename it at the end of this. Piper's not a huge fan of campfire because of bonfires being a bit of a touchy subject right now.
Yeah. I see it. I get it.
But then narrator Piper says, quote, "What she got was almost as terrifying. A sing-along." It's so funny. So funny.
As I said earlier, I'm a theater kid, so I would be like, oh, hell yeah, we're doing a sing-along.
I would love a sing-along. I love karaoke.
Oh, yeah.
My go-to move in karaoke is to do rap songs that involve 3 rappers, but do all 3 parts. Recently, I went to the birthday party of our mutual friend and mutual podcaster and past guest of the show, Alyssa Esteban. Went to her birthday karaoke party, which was genius. There's a karaoke place in New York, Baby Grand, and they're like karaoke every day. So Alyssa was like, hey, let's all show up Monday at 6 p.m. when no one is there, and we'll have the place to ourselves. Because it's like a public karaoke place. Like they also have private rooms, but you got to pay more. And we're like, oh my God. That's so smart. Genius. And it was so fun. It was incredible. So yeah, the 2 songs that I did were Check It Out by the Beastie Boys, where I did all 3 parts, and Bad with 2 Ds by the Yin Yang Twins featuring Mike Jones, where I did all 3 parts. So yeah.
Incredible. I do a Gwen Stefani, a really good Gwen Stefani impression. Ooh. So I'll do some No Doubt.
Okay. That's really good. Yeah. And if you ever want to team up, we can do Sweet Escape and I'll be Akon.
Oh my God. We have to.
Just so I can. in the background for 3 minutes and 24 seconds.
Yes.
Oh, it'd be really fun. Oh, man. Great stuff. Great stuff. I was so out of breath each time. It is such, because I also, of course, dance the whole time I'm doing it. So it is.
Of course.
Taylor Swift and Beyonce have like the greatest cardio. How do they do it? BTS and New Jeans. Like, how do these people, every time I do karaoke, I'm like, how do professional singers do this for hours while I am exhausted and I am like actively taking deep breaths during the parts of the chorus that people in the crowd are singing where I'm like, yeah, I don't have to sing this part. Like, their cardio is ridiculous. They must run on the treadmill a million hours a day.
That's why sometimes they take the microphone and put it towards the audience. They're like, yeah, this is the part where you sing and I breathe.
But like specifically Taylor Swift and Beyonce, like never do it. It's wildly impressive.
I have no idea. Oh. No idea.
And BTS and New Jeans, if they're doing the things where they have the headsets on, it would hear them being like, so impressive. So impressive.
They're the demigod children of the god of lungs.
Apollo. It's all Apollo. It's all Apollo. Or all Hermes because they have great cardio. Anyway, Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
We got to talk about this book. So, sing-along going on. And here's my question. Will the TV show ever be brave enough to do a sing-along? Will they give us karaoke? Will they do it?
Oh, I hope so. We can only hope.
We can only hope. We can only hope. It would be so fun. It would be so fun. If they sing Consensus at the campfire, come on.
I would love that so much.
I need it. Anyway. Narrator Piper says that Jason is sitting with Annabeth. Leo is sitting with a bunch of buff campers because I guess she doesn't realize that Cabin 9 is the ripped Forge folk. And then there's a group of campers with lyres singing about their grandma getting dressed for war, and everyone joins in. So feels very Apollo-y.
Yeah.
Piper thinks that this is just the right level of corny, which I'm glad that she is becoming more on board with it.
Yeah.
Chiron gets up after this song, and it takes Piper a beat to realize that he is not a dude on a horse, but he is a dude horse.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a shock to her. He does a bit of a welcome speech, and then an Aries camper asks when they're going to play Capture the Flag. And Chiron says that he knows they're very excited to get back to games, and then another Aries camper says, and kill people.
Aries, calm down.
Clarice, get your cabin in line. What is happening?
Yeah.
Chiron says that this is not possible until the dragon situation is resolved, and then asks Cabin 9 for an update. Nissa says, we're working on it. An Aries camper asks how, and Nissa says, really hard. I like Nissa a lot. Big fan.
She's great. She's great.
Many campers then begin to grumble. Chiron silences them and says that there are more important matters to discuss. So someone asks, Percy? And then Chiron turns it over to Annabeth, who says that she didn't find him, but they aren't giving up. She says that they have groups everywhere. Tyson, Grover, Nico, the Hunters, and I just wrote my notes, lol. So this is why all our friends are gone.
Exactly.
Everyone you know from the first 5 books is either out of here or injured or dead. You got to meet new friends. Make new friends.
Make new friends. This is Rick forcing us to make new friends.
Go to high school. 8th grade's over. Make new friends.
Oh, man.
Anyway, Annabeth says they have groups everywhere, and Chiron was referring to something else. Someone chimes in asking if it's the Great Prophecy. And I was like, ooh, too great to prophecy. The squeakquel. And this person who chimed in was Drew. Annabeth asks, what do you mean? Drew cites Olympus being closed, Percy being missing, the Hera stuff, and the new demigods as all being proof that it has to be beginning.
Right.
Piper begins to ask Rachel Elizabeth Dare what she's on about, but then notices everyone is looking at Rachel Elizabeth Dare. Drew asks her directly if it has started or not, and Rachel Elizabeth Dare cuts to the Annabeth chase and says, it has. And then narrator Piper says, pandemonium broke out. Jason mouths to Piper, you okay? And I love Jason. He's so wonderful. He's great. I'm a big fan.
He's lovely. He's very wholesome. And also, like, this is a great way to get you invested in Jason really quickly because he's learning about himself at the same pace as the audience is learning about him. Mm-hmm. So you're like going on the journey with him, and I love that. And he just really seems to be like care about the people that he's just met. Even though he's just met them, he's like bonded to them and he cares about them. And I'm like, oh, good. good.
Yeah, which I really like, because that is certainly a trait that I have, which is like, oh, these are my friends. I love them. And then on the flip side, much like Percy with Luke, just immediately like, oh, you've wronged me. I hate you forever. You will have to prove yourself so much to me.
Exactly.
Rachel Elizabeth Dare steps to the center and then recaps the prophecy for anyone who didn't read book 5. But 2 lines in, Jason gets up with a wild look in his eyes and starts spewing Latin. And because I took Latin in high school, I'm able
no
to.
way.
I know.
You did?
He says, ut cum spiritu postrema sacramentum dejuramus et hostes ornamenta adent ad ianum necem. And I did like go through it and try to basically put together what it means. But yeah, it does translate to what we've heard, which is an oath to keep with a final breath and foes bear arms to the doors of death. My translation was just like a clunkier version of this, going with the more literal. Piper is unsure why Jason went full Catholic priest, which is such a great way to characterize it. And now I'm imagining that he did the half singing thing of like, an oath to keep with a final breath, and foes bear arm to the doors of death.
Which is like kind of infinitely creepier to like just stand up and start doing in the middle of the bonfire.
100%.
Honestly. As of recording this, the first couple of episodes have come out of you reading this book, and I was listening to them, and I didn't know anything going into these books about Jason or like anything that was going to happen. I had no idea what was going on. And in the sort of like look back to this book, I was like, you know, they were being pretty heavy-handed about it. And like, especially like this moment, I'm like, I really should have been a little bit more cued in about what was going to come.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in a place where I know some stuff. Like, I haven't known many of the things, but yeah, I am, man, I just feel I've never been a big like rereading of books guy. I'm more of like, I'd rather read a new one than reread an old one. But with the Percy Jackson books, and I feel especially with the Heroes of Olympus books, I'm really going to want to do it. It's just, it's so much seed planting.
Exactly.
So Jason basically finishes the prophecy. He knows it, but he doesn't know how he knows it. Drew says, in Latin, no less, handsome and smart, which, oh, brother, Drew. The Aphrodite campers giggle. Piper thinks, God, what a bunch of losers. And Jason sits down nervous, but Annabeth puts a hand on his shoulder and says something comforting. But then Piper immediately feels, hey, what's that song? Who sings the song? That should be me. Like, that's exactly what I had. That should be me song. That's Justin Bieber feat Rascal Flatts. I was like, why do I think this is country? Okay. Yeah.
I didn't even know Justin Bieber did a song with Rascal Flatts.
It was 2012. Wow. It had to happen.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, yeah, she goes full Justin Bieber feat Rascal Flatts and thinks, that should be me. And Rachel Elizabeth Dare is shaken, and she turns to Chiron for help, but he does nothing, quote, as if he were watching a play that he couldn't interrupt, a tragedy that ended with a lot of people dead on stage, which I wrote woof, but I guess hoof, because it's Chiron, but also classic Chiron. Classic Chiron. He can't step in.
Like, why? We're not surprised. We're not surprised
at all. Rachel Elizabeth Dare tells the camp that this is the great prophecy, and they hoped it wouldn't happen for a few years, but it appears to be in effect now. And she's not 100% certain, but she has a pretty good feeling that this is the case. And another feeling she has is that not all 7 demigods are here with us today, just some. So I'm thinking, new friend / friends, because I had thought that the 7 was going to be Percy, Annabeth, Jason, Leo, Piper, and then I think I had guessed like Nico and Will Solace, but I wonder, Will Solace was like the least confident one. So maybe there's a new friend instead of him, or maybe there's like a technicality where like one of our friends we know before doesn't count or something. So I am excited by the potential of a new friend. And that would track for the Percy Jackson books, given that we didn't meet Tyson and Thalia until partway into the series.
Yeah.
So it would be foolish for me to think that we make 3 new friends and no other ones across these 5 books.
Exactly. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see.
We'll just have to see.
In response to Some Are Not Here, Clovis, my best friend on Earth.
Oh my God. I wish so badly that I could sleep as well as these demigod children.
That's me. I'm so good at going to sleep. Arguably too good.
Yeah. I'm like, man, I have such terrible insomnia. I was reading this character and I was like, oh, he just falls asleep wherever.
So good. But in response to Summer Not Here, Clovis goes, I'm here. Oh, were you calling roll? And someone yells, go back to sleep, Clovis. And everyone laughs. I love Clovis. Can he be one of the 7? Great. Can Clovis be on all of the quests, please? Because he's perfect. God. He's perfect.
Clovis.
Rachel Zbadare says that they cannot predict what the great prophecy means, but since the first one was quite bad, she thinks this one will be at least as bad. And then Chiron murmurs, or worse, but loud enough where everyone hears it. Thanks, Chiron. Thank you.
Just, if you're going to be quiet in the corner, just be quiet. In the corner.
Nah, he knows he's got to stoke the plot. Rachel Zbadare says that they do know that phase 1 has begun because there is a problem. Hera has been taken, and there must be a quest to solve it. Classic Percy Jackson rules.
Yes.
Rachel Zbadare fills them in on the Grand Canyon attack and the Mistress stuff, and then details the Hera cabin thing, and then ends with Jason's big house experience. Piper notices one difference is that she was told something that Jason was not told. Hera warned Piper not to bow to his will, but didn't say anything to Jason to expose Piper as a double agent. So she wonders why. And I'm thinking, because there's still hope for you, Piper. You don't have to be evil.
You don't. And she doesn't want to be. Like, she clearly, already you can see that she doesn't want to be.
Right. Rachel Zbadare asks Jason if he remembers his last name. Jason doesn't. Rachel Zbadare says that they'll just call him Jason then, and it's clear that Hera issued him a quest. Jason accepts. Rachel Zbadare reminds him of the solstice deadline, which is in 4 days. Annabeth says that it's because that's the next council of the gods, and her absence will be noted, and the great blame game will begin.
We love nothing more than a Percy Jackson, like an absolutely wild timeline.
We love a structure that we have to follow, but then play within the space.
Yes.
Like, I love an improv format with loose rules, but key tent poles to follow.
Yeah.
I respect it so much, so much. Chiron speaks up. Never a good sign. Chiron speaks up and says that the winter solstice is also a time of great darkness. The gods gather that day because evil magic is strong. And he says specifically ancient magic, older than the gods. So I wrote, Uranus, which has been my guess. And that feels like a good one. And he says, it's a day when things stir. And I wrote, bakers? And what's very funny is the narrator, Piper, then says, the way he said stir sounded like he was describing a felony, not cookie dough.
I was reading, I was like, Mike will love this joke. This is good.
Very good, very good. Annabeth says, okay, thank you, Captain Sunshine. She's so bitter. I love it. She's so angry at Chiron for withholding information from her. It's great. But she says that she agrees with Rachel Zbadare that Jason should lead the quest. And then some Aries kid yells, why hasn't he been claimed? If he's so important. Like, Clarice, get your cabin in line. Where is she? It is weird that she has not shown up at all. Yeah. Like, is she somewhere else? I don't think they've even explained. But the fact that Clarice has not done anything yet is bizarre to me.
Maybe it's just Clarice hiding behind other campers, pretending.
Doing great voice work. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Chiron corrects that Jason has been claimed long ago and instructs him to demonstrate that to the crowd. So Jason stands up, looking unsure, but also hot AF, according to narrator Piper. Quote, Piper couldn't help thinking about how amazing he looked with his blonde hair glowing in the firelight, his regal features like a Roman statue's. Hubba hubba. I mean, I get it. They're teens, but like the narrators are way hornier in this book series.
Really thirsty narrators. It's wild.
Piper then mimics flipping a coin to him. So he goes, oh, right, yeah. So then he flips Fliptide. And this time, it's a lance. And I wrote, the weapon changes? It's something different every time? This time it's a cool 7-foot lance. I was wondering, oh my gosh, does it change based on circumstances? Is it just like a random roster of things? Annabeth is baffled, saying, hold on, I thought that was a sword. And Jason says, I think it came up tails. Same coin, long-range weapon form. Ooh. So, okay, maybe only 2 versions, but still pretty cool. But also, is he, like, flipping a coin traditionally is a coin flip.
Right.
And what if he needs one versus the other? Like, is he going to be like, damn it. Okay. Flip back, flip. Damn it. Okay. Like, is he ever going to try to have to game it?
It's not great for the heat of battle.
Maybe he'll have to do that thing when you flip a coin and you catch it in your palm and then it's not the side you want. So you flip it on the other side of your palm where you're like, oh, this was always what I was going to do. Maybe he'll do that instead. But this is super cool. And then someone from the Aries cabin, a lot of play from the Aries cabin, but someone from the Aries cabin goes, dude, I want one. Great. And then someone else says, better than Clarice's spear, lamer, instead of mamer, which, now we don't necessarily use lame, but good pun. So, yeah. Jason then murmurs electric. And there's a lot of murmuring happening in this book so that the narrator can understand what people are thinking. I get it, but it's just something that I am noticing.
Lots of murmuring.
As a way of the narrator knowing what someone else has going on in their brain. People have to mutter and murmur quite a bit.
And loudly.
Loudly, enough for people to hear. It feels very video game. Like if you ever play a game like Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Zero West or something where they just like talk to themselves in full sentences out loud. Like I think to myself in full sentences and stuff, but thank goodness that the protagonists, when they are completely alone, voice it out loud. That being said, I do talk out loud sometimes. Like if I'm stressed about something, I will still like say it out loud to myself to calm myself down. So I kind of get it.
Yeah. When I'm frustrated, I'll scream.
So Jason tells people to back away. He raises the javelin towards the sky. Thunder rumbles. Lightning comes down, hits the tip, and a force causes an explosion of sorts that rocks the camp, and people are covered in ash and stuff. Kyra calls it a bit overkill, but says that everyone should get the point now. Jason says, Zeus, Lord of the Sky. So I nailed this. It was not hard. He got zapped by lightning and was okay, and he can fly. Not a hard guess for me.
Yeah, it was there.
It was there. Piper smiles because, of course, Jason's dad is the most powerful of the gods. Camp is less happy with Annabeth asking, how can his dad be Zeus, given the pact and everything? Wouldn't we have known about this guy? And I wrote, because he's mad old, Annabeth. Chiron doesn't answer, but Piper can tell he knows, which makes it 5,000% worse. Rachel Elizabeth says what matters is that he's here now and he has a quest to fulfill, meaning that he needs his own prophecy.
Right.
She goes into oracle mode and utters, child of lightning, beware the earth, the giant's revenge, 7 shall birth, the forge and dove shall break the cage, and death unleash through Hera's rage. So feels like Uranus for sure with beware the earth. But then I was intrigued, the forge and the dove. That feels like that should be Leo and Piper, and especially with forge, that's definitely Leo. And then I was thinking, okay, but whose godly symbol is the dove? And then I Googled it. It's Aphrodite.
It is.
Which I am so mad at myself for not getting. I should have gotten that on multiple fronts. 1, she's all hell-bent on this relationship with Jason.
Yes.
That makes sense.
She loves love.
2, it'll come up later, but I'm very upset that I didn't pick up on this, but we will continue onward. Rachel Elizabeth passes out after giving the prophecy. Piper asks if this is normal. Drew chides her. Annabeth says, no, it's a legitimate question because this prophecy sounds especially whack. If breaking the cage unleashes death and rage, why would they open it? And then I'm thinking, is it because Piper's a double agent? Is it a bad breaking of the cage? I don't know. Annabeth wonders if it's all a trap, and of course she does because she hates Hera. Jason says that he doesn't have a choice because Hera took his memories, he needs them back, and the Queen of the Heavens needs saving if she's in trouble. And I don't love his lack of critical thinking here because it does kind of feel like you should give the is this a trap thought a little bit more consideration.
Yeah. Especially since your memories are gone. Like, what if your memories held something that knows that this is a trap?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. But thankfully, Nyssa stands up and warns Jason to exercise a bit of caution because Hera is known to be vicious sometimes, citing that she chucked their dad Hephaestus off a mountain just because he was ugly. Yeah. And then someone from the Aphrodite cabin goes, real ugly. Get that person out of here. Get them, kick them out, expel them. This is uncalled for.
No.
Nyssa tells them to shut up before raising the questions of why beware the earth? What is the giant's revenge? Who is powerful enough to kidnap Hera? All incredibly valid questions, I think.
Yeah.
No one responds, but Piper notices a silent exchange between Annabeth and Chiron that she imagines goes as such. Annabeth, the giant's revenge. No, it can't be. Chiron, don't speak of it here. Don't scare them. Annabeth, you're kidding me. We can't be that unlucky. Chiron, later, child. If you told them everything, they would be too terrified to proceed. And the plot wouldn't be as good. The book would be less interesting. And I wrote in my notes, thank goodness for her very active imagination and deep understanding of their personalities. But I gotta hand it to Uncle Rick, because narrator Piper says, quote, Piper knew it was crazy to think she could read their expressions so well. Two people she barely knew, but she was absolutely positive she understood them, and it scared the jujubes out of her. And I gotta say, I appreciate that Rick recognizes also, it's a book. Yeah, just let me have this one, guys.
I realize it's a lot.
But just let me have it. Let me have it. Come on. So, also with the jujubes thing, that's either a very specific fruit reference or a very dated candy reference. And I don't know which it is. I think it's a dated
candy reference.
I would guess that too, but I don't know. Even at this time, jujubes was a dated candy reference because I feel like it was brought up once when I was a teen and I was like, Mom, what are jujubes? Like I was not eating them. They're like gummy candy like dots and stuff. The ones that get like super duper stuck in your teeth and come in a cardboard box for some reason.
Right.
And then they go like when you shake the box. Annabeth explains to the group that it is Jason's quest, so he gets to pick two companions. And I wrote, I wonder who he'll pick. A voice, which we then learn to be Travis Stoll's voice, suggests Annabeth since she has the most experience. Annabeth says no because 1, I hate Hera, and 2, I've got bigger fish to fry. I gotta find my boyfriend. And I just love that this is basically reverse Titan's Curse, where Percy was like, quest schmest, where's Annabeth?
Exactly. Yeah. And I love that Annabeth's just like, you know what? This big quest thing, I don't even care. You guys take care of it. I've been doing so much work. I'm going to go find my boyfriend.
I'm going to sit this one out. I don't like Hera. I like Percy. I'm going to do this instead. Piper blurts out that Percy's disappearance and this quest are all connected. Drew demands her to explain how. Piper isn't sure, but thankfully Annabeth steps in to say Piper might be right, and maybe she'll learn something along the way during her quest to find Percy, which feels very much like, I want to do this thing anyway, but now I found a cool reason that someone else brought up. Good point, Piper. Really good point. Yeah, yes. I was thinking the exact same thing. I should go right now.
Yeah, bye.
Annabeth says that regardless, the prophecy makes it clear that she shouldn't go. Jason jumps in to say that it is his choice, and he cites the Forge and the Dove lines. The Forge is Vulcan/Hephaestus. Nyssa says that they should use air transport if they must beware the Earth.
Right.
Piper stops just short of telling everyone that Jason can fly because it's his information to share, and maybe he scared people enough for one day. Very thoughtful. Very, very thoughtful. Nyssa continues that the flying chariot is broken and the Pegasi are all being used to find Percy, but maybe they can make something else. And I'm thinking, the dragon? Mm-hmm. Nyssa volunteers herself as head Cabin 9 camper with Jake out of commission, but she doesn't sound thrilled about it. But then Leo stands up and says that it's him. He knows it's him and he has an idea for the transportation. So then I wrote the dragon with an exclamation point. Jason smiles and says, we started this together, Leo. Seems only right you come along. You find us a ride, you're in. Which is cool. I love this. I love their friendship. Very fun. I like Leo being on the quest.
I also like that it feels like any camper at any point could be like, I just got a feeling, I got a hunch, it's me. I think...
Vibes, baby. Vibes. Leo is hyped. Nyssa warns one of them might die. Leo becomes less hyped. But then he realizes everyone is witnessing this, so he backtracks. Cool. Suffering? I love suffering. Let's do this. Leo's great. Love it. Love it. Love his awkward, gotta be a people pleaser energy.
Yeah. As we have discussed.
As we've established.
I understand it.
Annabeth now instructs Jason to pick the dove. Drew steps up and volunteers as tribute because everyone knows the dove is Aphrodite. Well, I didn't. Sorry, I had to Google it. Piper steps up and says no. Drew calling her dumpster girl again, which is not a good nickname. Not very creative. Not good.
We don't like Drew. We do not.
We don't like Drew. Drew tells her to back off. Piper says that she has to go on this quest since she had the vision of Hera. Drew claps back that anyone can have a vision if they're at the right place at the right time, which isn't wrong.
Yeah, she's not wrong. Missions are abound.
They're all over the place. She then tries to pitch herself to Jason, saying fighting is fine and people who build things, look of disdain towards Leo, quote, well, I suppose someone has to get their hands dirty. Then tells Jason that he needs charm on his side and that she can be very persuasive. And then I wrote in my notes, oh, duh, I should have seen this coming.
Yeah.
I'm a doofus for saying that there's been no example of Piper's powers except for the thing where she convinced him. Like, obviously, I'm so mad at myself, especially because in Hades, the video game, one of Aphrodite's big power-ups is that you charm people. And with certain attacks and stuff, you can charm people to fight other enemies. And I was so angry. And what this really means is I should be playing more Hades the video game for my job. I haven't been playing a lot recently, and this is a mistake. So clearly I need to schedule time to play Hades the video game. It's very important.
Fully agree. That's exactly it.
But yeah, I was kicking myself for not getting this earlier. Oh, gosh. I should have seen it coming. Doofus. But I think the thing is I'm just so excited to read ahead and keep doing stuff that I'm like not thinking about it. I'm like, I gotta read the next chapter. That's why we're recording this so far ahead.
Yeah.
But to prove this point, narrator Piper says, quote, the camper started murmuring about how Drew was pretty persuasive. And narrator Piper notes that even Chiron is scratching his beard. And it seems like Annabeth is about to go along with it as well. But Piper screams, no, I'm supposed to go. And then narrator Piper says Piper's own voice sounded strange in her ears, more insistent, richer in tone. So we have seen Drew use persuasive voice, but now Piper use more persuasive voice, which is very, very, very cool. Everyone starts nodding in agreement. And I was like, oh, a charm off. Great. Yes. Drew snaps. Get over it. What can Piper do? Which also a valid point to raise because no one knows about the Piper BMW thing.
Yeah. And also she hasn't had any training. She got here 4 hours ago.
Correct. So Drew, we don't like her, but she's not 100%
wrong. Yeah.
Piper then becomes self-conscious, thinking that the only thing she can do is sometimes convince people to do stupid things. And I was like, Piper, come on. But then I was like, oh, wait. Also, I didn't think this was anything. So I get it.
Right.
She doesn't answer. Drew believes that settles it. But then everyone is staring at Piper in shock. And I was like, oh, baby, claim time. But there's no symbol above her head. Instead, there's a reddish glow around her, and now she's wearing a dress, a very ornate gown. Then her dagger, I think, glows or something, but she decides to look at it, even though she doesn't want to, but she's too curious and knows that it's also a mirror, so she unsheaths Catoptris and looks at her reflection. She has perfect hair braided with golden ribbons, and she's got perfect makeup on her face, and she thinks she looks, but Jason finishes her thought, beautiful! They're so thirsty.
They really are.
Like, just I get that this is a cool, like, finish the sentence kind of thing, but out of context, people are silent, and then Jason from across the room just goes beautiful. And then to make it even better, goes, Piper, you're a knockout.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense since he's very old, but we don't know how old. But like, Rick, no one says this.
Yeah, knockout.
Oh, yeah, she's a knockout.
She's a knockout.
Look at this broad. Gosh. Oh, she's a stunner. Look at this. Oh, God. But anyway, Piper thinks that normally getting claimed would be very exciting to her, but she's a bit worried now, especially with Drew freaking out. Yeah, because you're cabin mates. Piper assures everyone this isn't her, and she doesn't understand what's going on, but Chiron bows, everyone follows, and then he says, Hail, Piper McLean. And then the narrator says that he did so gravely, as if he were speaking at her funeral. Like, yeah, I don't understand the tone here. This should still be cool. Hail, Piper McLean, daughter of Aphrodite, lady of the doves, goddess of love. And very cool, very fun. Love the plot twist that her and her bully are in the same cabin. That is very cool. And also now we had a little bit of Selena, but not like a lot of what she can actually do from a power perspective.
Yeah.
So this will be fun. And that's the end of chapter 10, which I titled, I Get a Makeover.
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know if I could beat that. That's pretty good.
I felt pretty confident about it. But that is the end of this chapter. That's the end of this episode. Sequoia, thank you so much for joining. This has been a blast. Super fun set of chapters. I'm glad you were here for more monumental stuff.
Yes.
I'm sure it will continue to happen. But
my Aphrodite cabin.
Yes,
it is so mighty
glad.
and strong.
I'm genuinely very excited to learn more about the Aphrodite cabin. Someone asked me at a live show, what are you most excited to learn about in these books? And my answer was the stuff that we only kind of learned about. So having Leo and Piper be from cabins we knew a little bit about is super intriguing to me. So I'm very, very, very excited. And even Jason too. Like we get a little bit of zoo stuff with Thalia, but like not that much. So I think it'll be very fun, especially because Thalia kind of goes more the Artemis route than anything.
Exactly.
So I'm very excited. It's super cool. But until we cross paths again for a very monumental section of the Percy Jackson universe, where can people find you, Sequoia?
Yeah, I have 2 podcasts. I have a podcast called Fanatical, Fics, and Where to Find Them, where we find the wildest Harry Potter fan fiction and read it. And then I have a show called But Make It Scary, which is on season hiatus right now, coming back in October. But there are over 60 episodes for you to go listen to, many featuring Mike. So go check that out.
Yeah, high percentage of episodes that exist that I'm on. So it's a good time. I love it. It's such a good podcast. I'm so excited for it to come back. I keep refreshing my podcasting app every now and then to be like, when are more episodes coming? I'm so stoked for it. It's very good. Everyone should listen to it, not just because I'm on it. It's very good. But Sequoia, thank you so much for joining. Listeners, thank you for listening. And until we figure out what's going on with the world, I guess, is Leo our next? I think Leo's the next chapter, so that'll be fun. See what's going on with our good, fun Forge friend Leo. Until then, I'll pursue you later. Hi, thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campomanes and Brandon Krugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you enjoy the show and you can't get enough, you can head on over to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon, and you can get access to a whole bunch of bonus content. You can also find us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and there's a subreddit, reddit.com/r/thenewestolympian. If you want to support the show with some TNO merch, you can go to thenewestolympian.com/merch. And if you want to see if we've got a live show coming to a city near you, head on over to thenewestolympian.com/live. I mentioned that Patreon earlier. Let's give a shout out to our producer level patrons: Kelsey Gillespie, The Damn Steam Nuggets, Vicky Garcia, Veronica Bartova, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Craig McRoberts, Taylor Payne, Sabrina Balsiger, Boney Pony, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Ashton Gabrielson, Marco Redhouse, Sam Reeby, Riley Kiddes, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkopf, Julia Kendall, Rick A, John Drielsma, Rayla Matthews, Luna Kadoon, Sky Mallory, Persasabeth, Aiden Parziani, Biggest Tyson Fan, King Bastion, One Damn Distraction Coming Up, Ginger Spurs Boy, A Cup of Solace, Meg Roy, Olivia Krinicki, Bradamus Prime, Kibo Guy, Skylar Sisters, Demigod Nurse, Zachary Hamilton, Scott Sheldon, Sophie, Natanya Page, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Finley McLeod, Sarah Elise Arnson, Bella, Hayden Neal, Percy Jackson, and Han Haley Hingelheimer Schmidt. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, word of mouth helps the podcast so much. Whether you reach out to someone directly and say, hey, there's this podcast called The Newest Olympian. It's about Percy Jackson. I think you would really like it. Whether that person is a Percy Jackson superfan or someone you're trying to convince to get into the books. You can also just talk about the show on social media. That helps. You could even just leave a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. All of these things really help. I appreciate everyone who has already done so, and I appreciate anyone who will do so in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode where we'll be joined by Jania Stewart to break down chapters 11 and 12 of The Lost Hero. But until then, I'll pursue you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. So me and Kelly have some friends that recently went to Korea and brought us back an enamel pin from Korea. It's very cute. It is a cat resting atop a bed of rice to kind of make it look like sushi. And he's orange, so he kind of like, it's supposed to look like a salmon nigiri, but it is an orange cat on top of a bed of rice. So it's very cute. It's in the plastic wrapping here, and I've been meaning to put it on the soundproofing panels in the studio because I have a bunch of enamel pins on the wall here. So I'm just going to undo the very crinkly plastic wrap and put it on the wall and let that be this episode's ASMR Mix segment. Get off the backing. Ooh, it's very nice. And then let's see, I'll put it over there. Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for listening. I should do more chores for the ASMR Mix segment. Things I've been meaning to do. Thank you so much for listening.